Whenever we talk about sexual assault, we normally always think about the survivor, which I fully understand. And then we think about going to the police, we think about courtrooms, we might even think about a guilty verdict. But one of the things that I think remains very unspoken in this whole process is the collateral damage that it does to a family. And I've seen it firsthand. It is near impossible to tell somebody that you love that you have been raped for them not to go through some form of grieving process. Most people don't go to the police to begin with. 85% of people that have been violated don't go to the police, which means that 85% of people are going through this part regardless of going through the justice system. When you go through the justice system and this part, all you've got is trauma stacking because you've got a very difficult process, as well as this part with any unspoken truths that needed to come out with the family as well. And that's something I've had to go through multiple times and see this reaction on people's faces of shock and horror and upset. And then watching the news actually sink in to see their reaction afterwards. And these moments aren't just us all coming together and having a big old chat around trauma. I've had so many of these conversations now. I've seen the complexity behind what a survivor has to go through and the collateral damage that it then impacts on the family in a different way, but still very an impactful way. So I actually told my brother when we went camping, and it was 2023 in the summertime. And I remember the CPS had not long taken my case, like literally a week or two beforehand. And I was like, this is happening. Like, I'm going on stand. And I'll never forget his initial face of, oh my God, and the enormity of what I was telling him. And also just the confusion of this man used to be in our house, and his nickname for this man used to be Mr. Helpful. And yet here he was hearing this thing happen to me by him. And it was a lot to take in that moment. We spoke for a good hour or so, but we had commitments to get back to. But when my brother got back from camping a couple of days later, he phoned me, and I'll never forget on that call his voice literally fluctuating between tears and fury. He was either cracking or he was angry because it had obviously taken a little bit of time to think about and digest and really get your head around what had happened, which also meant that so many of his memories of things that are childhood memories, there was this horrible dark secret that was looming around in the background that was unspoken. So watching my family go through that, the collateral damage and the ripple effect of the grief is very difficult, first of all, for the survivor, but I also want to recognize the families that go through that. Often families feel guilty for having any emotions around it. Think, well, the feelings have to stay with the survivor. And that's obviously really kind and caring, but they still have to go through a grieving process as well. I do understand that there are some families out there that aren't that supportive and they haven't supported survivors in the way that I have been supported. And I have a lot of empathy for those people. But on the whole, assuming you come from a background of people that will support you, it's inevitable they will go through a grieving process as well. But the part that pains me is that only the people that really get into court really get this to be seen and to be spoken about. Whereas every single family that I've ever spoken to that have gone through somebody in that family unit that has survived a serious sexual assault have had to deal with this. I'm engaging with a lady at the moment online on like a DM, and her sister's been through something similar that I have. I've spoken to parents where they're worried sick about their children because they've dropped out of college or they've now taken to drugs because they're doing it as escapism or whatever. And these people are just tearing their hair out, going, what do I say? How do I deal with it? And they're dealing with their grief as well. And these are the silent casualties that I think are mostly overlooked and unseen, whereas every single family has to go through this, regardless if they go to court or not. So this isn't something where I'm trying to express people become unhinged or unstable. It's like any grieving process. When somebody dies, doesn't matter how stable you are, you still have to go through that process in order to pop out the other end. But it's that moment when the truth gives somebody permission to just feel whatever it is that they're feeling. And it's very easy to forget that another family member can also feel helplessness, can also feel anger, can also feel sadness, can also feel grief. Just because they might not be the actual survivor directly, those emotions are likely to be very present in the surrounding family. So if I remember the instant when I told my brother, there was the initial impact where we didn't have really enough time to talk it fully through, but I saw the facials and I saw the shock and I saw this cognitive dissonance of like this shock horror of, oh my God, what the hell is happening kind of thing. coupled with when the camping trip ended and then a couple of days later, and I'll never forget how his voice was fluctuating, like I said, between sadness and anger, basically. And understandably, it's a very normal reaction for a big brother to feel that way about his little sister. And I'm not saying that if you are a survivor listening to this, that you must go out and speak to the police or you must go out and tell your family. Maybe, like me, for years, you weren't ready to do that. Maybe when the time comes, you will feel ready to do it, but just accept that they're inevitably going to feel grief as well. And it simply can't be avoided. It's the nature of truth being exposed in that way. And if you are somebody that is on the receiving end of this news and somebody that you love, whether it be your sister, your mum, your girlfriend, whatever it is that has also been violated, then however you react in a supportive way is okay. Whether that's you break down in tears there and then, that's okay. If you get angry there and then, that's okay. If you take 3 days for it to digest before it really sinks in, that's also okay. As long as everybody's recognizing how they're feeling and facing that rather than running away from it. But one key thing I really want to stress is that I know that there is an absolute abundance of families going through the same thing out there, which is why I think this video has a place on my channel, because not everything is about what goes in a courtroom. There's so many families out there that don't even get to court and don't go to the police, but they still have to deal with this. And I cannot stress enough that if this is resonating with you, you are not alone. There are so many families going through the same thing. And if nothing more, I want that to be a little piece of comfort to stop people from feeling so isolated when going through it.